at the MSI booth at Computex 2024, where it is pure pandemonium. But they are showing off a lot of stuff, including next-gen Intel and next-gen AMD Ryzen 9000 motherboards. So it's going to give us a pretty good glimpse into some of the hardware that's on the way. Now let's start off, shall we, with those new Ryzen motherboards. These are, of course, the new chipsets announced for Ryzen 9000, though they'll also support the existing range of Ryzen 7000 processors. For those of you that missed it, AMD are bringing 4 new chips, a 5, 7, and 2 Ryzen 9s with up to 16% IPC improvements. And with no changes really to clock speeds or core counts, that looks to be very impressive. MSI have got 2 boards on show. All X870 boards, regardless of the E designation, are guaranteed to have PCI Gen 5 for at least 1 NVMe and, of course, the graphics card. Great for next-gen SSDs like MSI and others are showing off here today. And there's also nice new quality of life features like an improvement to the way the toolless NVMe slots work. And, of course, MSI have adopted the button to release the PCI slot, as we've seen on other motherboard vendors for some time. They also had a few interesting Intel motherboards on display, both from the upcoming Core Ultra range or 15th gen, and of course from the current Z790 lineup. Let's start off with Z790, as there is some interesting stuff here. They're actually debuting their CAM2 standard. I say it's not MSI's standard, they're working with memory vendors to make this possible. And what this basically is super fast and has lower latencies than existing DDR5. They're saying 128 gigabytes a module, lower latencies, and it will still be dual channel, but they're saying that it's not really that user serviceable. The pins are very delicate. We don't know a great deal about it, so watch this space on that one. As far as the upcoming Intel Core Ultra motherboards go, for Arrow Lake, some interesting designs again. There's not a whole load we can deduce. Thunderbolt, of course, improvements to quality of life features like PCI slots, Wi-Fi antennas. Again, we don't really know a great deal here, and with the promising AMD announcement, I think the interest is going to be more centered around the X870E boards anyway. Now, with this being MSI, there's a lot, and it does not stop at motherboards. Graphics cards, they got some cool stuff. Obviously, no new 50 series or Radeon 8000 here. However, they are showing off a new Supreme design, which actually features water cooling. Now, it's not like a water block or custom loop design. They've actually replaced the existing heatsink you'll find on a standard graphics card with a radiator. So it's basically like a fancy all-in-one. There's 2 on offer. One is the Experts. That's an adaptation of an existing design. The larger Supreme design has a large radiator with 3 reservoirs and super short tubes so that MSI can convert all the heat from the actual GPU die itself and deal with this in a liquid-cooled form factor. The card, they say, weighs over 3 kilograms right now and is like 4.5 slots. So again, I think perhaps we're a little way away from this reaching production. Maybe it gives us an idea that the upcoming 50 series could run hot and need quite an elaborate cooling solution. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm probably reading too much into it. There's more. Cases, some really interesting stuff. They're showing off this new modern, again, very early stage, not quite prototype, but not going to hit the market just yet. I actually quite like this. Wooden accents on cases seem to be all the rage here at Computex, and this thing looks quite sleek. Something that you will be able to buy, though, is the upcoming MSI Velox 300R. Now, the Velox range has been around for a little while. This is very large. I'd actually say maybe slightly too large. However, for potentially good reason. At the front, you get a pair of 160mm fans, so obviously larger than the 140s. You find on lots of cases smaller than the 200mm. You'll find on huge chassis. These fans are cool as well because they actually have a split design. The center and the outer blades are in a different layout at a different angle. And what MSI say is that this allows for highly directional airflow, but then also a higher volume of airflow despite the large fan form factor. Lots of different colors available here too, and I think it looks really quite nice. As far as coolers and power supplies go, you guessed it, there's quite a few. A couple of highlights. They have got one with an integrated screen or display on board. This is an IPS screen that allows you to chuck on pretty much anything that you like. Quite a similar idea to what we've seen with the Height Thick Q60. In addition to that, they've also got some more entry-level MAG coolers on the way. One of these has a little cover on the left-hand side of the fans for helping to hide the cables away and keep things a little bit more clean. And I think MSI are aiming to be pretty price competitive with these. Power supply front, only one to show, but it is 1600 watts and has 2 PCI Gen 5 power cables. So you could run 2 4080 Supers or 2 4090s if you like. This is 80 plus titanium. It's got this really nice gold finish on the bottom with the fan, and it's got RGB on the side. But you'll have to install the power supply in the right orientation, otherwise the RGB will be hidden. Similarly, if you've got a case with a power supply shield, and I think most MSI cases have got that, you won't see the RGB anyway. But it looks nice. and I rate it 1600 watts, 80 plus titanium, pretty high end. Like every brand right now as well, MSI have also got AI in lots of things on their booth, including a new QD OLED monitor, which visually looks really, really nice. And they say uses an AI model to read information in your game, so ammo or health, and translate this down to the actual light bar on the bottom of the monitor. The idea being, if you're like running out of health or you've run out of ammo, it would flash red or orange. They're saying that this should allow the technology to work on pretty much any game with fairly basic AI training. However, they've also said they don't really have permission from a lot of the games yet to display the information on the monitor. So although you don't need the game integration, you do need the devs to play ball. So again, great idea. Whether we'll see it translate into practice, I'm not quite so sure at this stage. On the value for money front, couple of interesting things on the peripheral side. They've got a new keyboard with their own switches. The switches are fully hot swappable. There's media control keys and integrated wrist rest. The whole thing felt really nice and comes in at about $149. I do think they potentially missed a trick though with one of their new gaming mice, which they're calling the Versa Pro Wireless 8K. Now this actually supports Qi wireless charging, so you can just chuck the mouse on and it charges wirelessly, nothing new there. But the magnets aren't quite strong enough to hold a phone or even make mouse alignment easy. So I fed that back and said, if you bring this to market, please make the magnet a little bit stronger. MSI always seem to be refreshing their peripherals. They've got another headset coming on the way too. It feels pretty lightweight, it's pretty comfortable, weighs in at under 250 grams. And like lots of brands here aiming for that value price point. $49 they say is the US MSRP. And around the show floor generally, what we're seeing is product really coming down in price, and that is encouraging to see. The final major things to mention really are monitors. There's loads and loads of QD OLED panels on display here. Everything from your gaming displays to your business-oriented designs. They've got one which is quite cool that runs at a lower refresh rate when you put it to 4K, but tune it down to 1080p and you go from 160 right through to 320 Hertz. This is really interesting. It's just a physical switch on the panel and gives you ideally the best of both worlds on the resolution and then the competitive gaming high refresh rate front. They also had one monitor. It wasn't gaming related, but it had like Chromecast integration. So you had like YouTube and other bits. They said to me, do you think people would like to see these kind of features on gaming panels too? I'm not so sure, but maybe Netflix integration on MSI gaming monitors in the near future. Who knows? I also forgot to point out on the booth yesterday, it's Future James here, by the way, their Vision X Prebuilt. Now, I'm not normally massively interested in Prebuilts, but this has a 1080p touchscreen integrated into the front that will show key stats like CPU and GPU temperatures, clock speeds, and even allow you to adjust the performance preset of your gaming PC. You guessed it, powered by AI. As I say, a lot to unpack here, some really interesting stuff for the future, particularly for me, those new AMD Ryzen 9000 and Intel Arrow Lake motherboards. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to get subscribed. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. This booth is so busy. So busy.